snap it. I'm sure they do, but town council was there and didn't say a peep. There's deference to the town bylaw, the town's interpretation of the bylaw. So I said, well, interpretation of the town.
I thought it started at
So then they're trying
7:30.
to argue that
And I
because
was
the issue of
late.
site plan approval, that the issue
Oh,
is
yeah.
manufacturing.
He didn't say anything.
Probably vacation, I would imagine.
I went through the history again with that, and I said that would be a perversion of justice, because they're actually, if they're able to inculcate
No, I think she
particular
did
issue
really well, actually.
after people that tried to take
Make sure you miss 2 40B
because
meetings
they
and
didn't
you're out.
understand me, because it was a denial.
Don't come anymore.
To then somehow morph
That's
that
one way to
into
do it.
Absolutely.
decision that is unappealing.
I don't know what my problem is, but,
Determination of the-
I mean, Len pulled it off once.
I think that
Yeah, I think I know the applicant. You know, I'm out.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, right. Paul's swan song.
Sounds very scary. It's a good movie title.
He was fun to torture
Starring
as a
Tom
chairman.
Hanks.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you, that was
Mark,
the best.
good, how you doing? Good.
Lock the door.
Does anybody have his cell?
No, I don't.
Should have said we could waive the reading if we.
Luckily, I might have it.
I no longer have to take over these meetings.
I thought that was just the.
Mark's number? I don't have Mark's
Get
number.
him over notice if he did.
Hopefully he doesn't go to the hospital.
And Len doesn't show.
So it says.
Yeah, and you said something was funny.
$700 a linear man.
I hope.
But don't tell him.
$700
Mark's
is
Yeah, well, that
$52,000.
would be good if he does.
So I didn't. I said.
I'm saying most he threw out a number out of
He's
his
not having-
he did.
You know what, he probably has.
So
For them to build it.
just make sure Christina knows $75.
$75 is the town where to build it.
Because I know, didn't he quit a few months ago? When you
That's for the town
They
to
finally
build.
get you a nameplate.
They did, huh?
So it only took, what, 6 months to get
It's
a
usually about
nameplate?
a third.
Oh, yeah, I got the top.
Wow, wow.
Of course not,
You have
that's
to
why
buy
I
it
asked.
yourself.
It's usually about a third or less. Private entity to build it. Because they don't pay
Go
for
find
minimum
an old
wage.
one from in there,
There
redo.
was a kind of
Right.
And they can
Well,
get
I don't know if he was kidding, serious.
Just
I have
now.
no idea. I don't think he was kidding.
But Irish DPW.
Scotch tape with the last name and write it in like.
So what have you been doing for
Make it
excitement?
happen.
You know, same old.
I'm surprised Paul's isn't like yellowing by
What's
now.
in March?
Charlie's is.
So you can do it all you want.
Actually trying to buy a house down in Falmouth. Vacation. No, it's a subdivision that has river access that goes to the ocean, so.
Okay, we going with the 5-minute rule, Colleen, where we can just leave?
Turn off all the lights.
Start with one. We've been going down, we've been going down to Falmouth.
two.
We've been going down to Falmouth for as long as I've been with my wife, because her parents have a place down there.
Oh, the regular meeting, yeah.
Usually,
Yeah, because I was away that time.
I don't have a cell. You have it?
No.
I just sent him an email. I don't know. I have a little place in New Hampshire. I always take the back road. See, maybe I might have it.
yeah, you're in a hip.
Colleen was in the garage.
Oh, in Hillsborough. It's in
Yeah.
Lake,
I got like a Jackie
Washington.
now.
Okay.
Frank Clark was like,
900 people.
like another one from
I don't think
Colleen.
anyone
Like,
saw those.
I'm on the stairs.
No stop signs, no street lights.
That's nice.
Traffic lights.
It's not not a lot to do up there then.
I'll see you in 3
You have to go to Hillsborough if you want to do
Yeah.
something or whatever. Or else you just stay out on the lake all day.
Yeah.
you know.
Which is plenty to do in and of itself.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
With the goal of
If I were that place.
So you've been up to.
We're not going over because
I
he's
actually
late.
worked this.
You guys want to start? We can start.
Really been slow.
Has it?
We can start
Hey,
in.
we can't do the 15-minute
Hey,
college
I
teacher
think we
rule.
have to. I was thinking
All
5.
kinds of summaries. All kinds. Like
College is 15, we've upgraded to 5.
You have
Not much.
5, so that's enough.
There's one place I've been to twice.
I'll go check the parking lot just to see if he's.
Wasn't placing Clover
I
Hill.
emailed them.
No,
I don't
no.
see
I can tell you where it was. I
cell number in
Is
any
it
of our
public knowledge?
correspondence.
don't know.
Well, if I get appointed town council next week, then you can tell me.
He's gonna need to be put on probation
Oh,
for
you
this.
might?
It may be self-imposed at this point.
So get rid of the people in
Get
Boston.
rid of
then?
KP.
You know how he is with the 40
Well, I'm not
Bs.
getting rid of them. I can replace them.
I'd like to nominate
Yeah, so
I
we're,
think so.
we're one of the finalists.
as the temporary.
I mean, do you want to consider going ahead at this point? Give me a minute with the.
No, give him
email.
give him a minute.
Ask the lawyers. Figure it out.
Yeah.
Come on, can't we? No. Would always be
Have
the
it
same
downstairs,
answer.
I
We
think.
can't afford it. We're not doing it. All the time.
Did he reply? I mean,
And you do
he
have to
sent out the
control
reminder?
costs.
No, nobody ever replies to me unless they're not coming. So,
You said he was
if
here.
no news is good news, right?
Yeah.
If I don't hear from you
I
guys, you're
think so.
coming, right?
I said,
Maybe you should
"Is
switch it
Len
up
coming?"
for
You
a
said, yeah, he's
Reply
here.
if you.
No, I
are
said
coming.
I believe he's coming. I didn't say he's
Then at
coming.
least you
That'll
get-
really,
You
it's
should
better
stop
when I
putting
switch
regrets
it.
only on your notices.
Yeah, regrets only. My problems are getting smaller and smaller.
When do these get turned on, Colleen?
When you open the meeting, they're watching you.
Why, do you have something appropriate to say?
No. Well, I do, but I'll say it.
Always.
This is some gripping.
Always. I don't believe it.
Len Richards.
He's invisible.
He thinks he is. We'll find him.
When's Was that televised? Wasn't, was it? Oh, it
It was a
was.
selectmen's meeting.
At the selectmen's meeting.
Yep.
'Cause I never watch that. It's kind of boring.
That have meetings, they'll be like, "Oh, I'm going to my meeting, you guys wanna watch me on TV?" No, it's all right,
Oh,
thanks.
that's all right.
9 to 4:30. So I was like, yeah, I don't
Well, he's off the grid.
really feeling
I figured he was.
more meetings.
We got,
He agreed to this date, right?
we got 5 voting members, I believe.
Well, we set this at the last hearing.
That was a long time ago. That was a month ago.
Yeah.
Maybe
It's not a normal.
Little summer dementia has kicked in since then, huh?
Summer dementia. Now that's where I'm at. I got that one.
Well, if you got Bud's number, I'm sure Bud has Len's number.
Oh, but they're probably out together.
He is
Bud's selling his
under
house.
the radar.
Saw that online, yeah.
Yeah. What does he want for that?
I have no idea. Look nice.
86. We
Oh, it is a
do
nice
not
home.
have-
Hey Len, it's Colleen. We're all sitting here at a meeting. It's
Oh, you got
7:10 and we're waiting for you. Can you let us know if you're coming? Give me a call back at this number. Bye.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You found his cell?
Now they're my third drink. I guess I could go over.
Bring enough to
I'm
share.
gonna need somebody to
Well,
pick
then,
me up.
2 more to go.
didn't have a cell phone number, it's on the internet. He's gonna answer.
Hopefully that wasn't his office
I
phone.
think he has a 5-drink minimum.
5-drink minimum.
I have drank.
Luckily, the mics aren't on yet.
Do you wanna start, Brian, and hopefully he comes in, or I guess it would be up to.
We have
open the
5,
meeting anyway.
Brian.
Well, you can certainly do the first.
You can do the admin one.
Oh, yeah. We got River Neck Road.
Oh, we can get through that, yeah.
In minutes, right?
Have a little housekeeping we can do while we're waiting. 271 River Neck Road.
Can you do me a favor and just announce that, we're being videotaped for the public? Announce that we're being videotaped?
We are being videotaped for the public's knowledge here.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Attorney Melissa Robbins from the law firm of DeShane and Farrell. Here this evening for that administrative item to let the board know and give them notice under 760 CMR 56 that the comprehensive permit that was issued for River Neck Road is being transferred from one entity to the other. I'm doing this as a courtesy for the board because I think I had mentioned during the hearing process that the project was in the course of being vetted to numerous developers. And the developer that ended up purchasing the project is River Neck Road Development, LLC. The gentleman's name, who's the manager, is Dave Russell. He has extensive construction experience and actually has just completed a 40B project in Salisbury. We have submitted for final approval through Mass Housing, so I'll be back to this board again to request the ZBA acknowledgement be signed and also just to show you the other regulatory documents. So Again, I wanted to make sure I satisfied the regulatory requirement, but also give this board the courtesy of knowing who was taking over the project from H&L Pioneer 40B LLC. So Wendland and Dean Jenkins are no longer with the project. And I'm happy to answer any questions if the board has any. But again, I'll be back here with the ZBA acknowledgement for the regulatory agreement probably at the August 24th meeting.
Do you need a vote from the board?
No.
No? Okay. And do you want anything in writing from the board?
No, at the August meeting, I'll be asking them to acknowledge the regulatory agreement, and that will be the only action I'll need at that point for a final approval.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Killed 2 minutes.
And now we play the waiting game.
Who's it go?
I think the issue is that we only have 3 voting members, because now we don't have Bud, Jacqueline, or Len, and there are 3 voting members on this matter.
But all of them have done the Mullen, and Jackie's still qualified to do her Mullen, so is Len. So they could do that for next meeting,
So can Bud.
or we could just continue it out to you wanna give them
We give 5 more minutes.
10
and then we can
more
make-
minutes?
Yeah,
And make the decision?
that's fine.
Okay. In the meantime, talk about schedule for, I know Paul's committed to the 24th.
Schedule for next week?
The 24th is a regular meeting, or this is where Melissa is coming, is that?
This would be the next meeting that Paul would be available for this 40B, and we will also be opening another 40B hearing for 7 Gorham that night as well.
Okay.
More fun.
I'm on
Also-
vacation. 24th.
As long as it works for everybody.
I'm available for the 24th.
As of today, I'm available.
And I was hoping to do it kind of halfway through, like we handled this one, so it would be a standalone meeting for the 40B, unless there was something else that came up in between.
So you're gonna put the 2 together?
Yeah, we'll
Running
continue
that
this
way.
one and also start 7 Gorham and have.
Ongoing from there,
Yes, exactly, thank you.
together?
Both on the 24th.
Yes, both on the 24th, and then going forward, not at our regular meetings. Our regular scheduled
Right.
first of the month meetings.
But you're gonna keep them together?
Yes, yes. And they will be televised.
I'm calling, I'll be on vacation that week.
Okay. Will you be around for the 1st of September?
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it's the 7th.
Yeah.
The 7th, Labor Day.
It's Thursday. I wouldn't be
So
there.
probably not.
Labor Day is the 4th, the week before.
you going on vacation? This works a lot.
I am that week of the
Now, how do you know
you?
when you're on vacation? How does it, I mean, what's the difference between your life?
Because instead of, but these are wrong, right?
I'm not sure I have a choice. As long as it's free.
So who's the chair? Brad, are you acting as chair?
At this point, yes.
So if the board's inclined to open the hearing, we would proceed this evening. The 3 members that are missing have not used their Mullins rule yet. So we could actually give the presentation to the board today and have some discussion on our changes and then continue to the date that the board decides, and all 3 members can still Mullins in for the 24th. It's just at that point, all voting members have used their Mullins, so nobody else can miss a hearing on the 24th. Or so from that date forward, if we miss too many members, would have to continue out after that.
Charlie will be missed on the 24th.
Okay. So if we take action tonight and we want to proceed and go to the 24th, everybody would have to Mullins in. Charlie's the only one that hasn't missed a meeting. So Charlie, I guess, is the exception to the rule.
We say that a lot.
That sounds fine. We
Okay.
can proceed. I don't, yeah, if it's, if it's what you want to do, we're good with it.
Sure. No, I feel comfortable with it, given that all the members out tonight can still use the Mullins rule, and I believe that they will participate in the next meeting. And I think we can still get plenty done tonight and have some discussion on the revisions.
Okay.
Okay. So, ooh, do we have to open the hearing?
What's that?
Open the hearing item?
That would be
Yeah, should I don't have the,
the agenda's on the front page.
Right there. You have it.
Continue public hearing.
You just have to state the address and the,
so we're going to open the continued public hearing for 50 Hunt Road, Chelmsford, Mass., an application for a comprehensive permit under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40B, for property located at 50 Hunt Road.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, again, my name is Attorney Melissa Robbins. I'm from the law firm of Deshane and Farrell. I'm here tonight for Beaverbrook Crossing LLC. I think at the last meeting, we had a lot of substantive discussion. We've had 5 weeks to work on this plan and work on a lot of the concerns of the board since the last meeting. We've had some improved building locations from Littleton Road. We've had some improved landscaping. We've also improved the walkway at Hunt and High. And we've looked at even putting a boardwalk in that corner in order to deal with some safety concerns that were raised by the board and the pedestrian committee at the last meeting. We've also met with the Conservation Commission and actually had a very good meeting with the commission at the last meeting. We have another meeting with them on August 8th, and we think at that time the hearing will be closed. The substantive change from the Conservation Commission was we agreed for the walkway in the rear to become all pervious pavers. We do have some substantive plan changes to get through, and I think the best way to do that would allow Katie to get into specifics. Your town engineer is also here tonight to address any concerns you have regarding her review. The board does have a new letter in their packet, and I know that that's generally the board's procedure to read that all into record, but I think once you look at the letter, or I'm sure that many of you already have, you can see that most of it is Christina's questions from the last meeting that were already read into record, and then Katie's answer. So I'll let Katie speak to the site plans.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Katie Enright with Howard Stein Hudson with office at 114 Turnpike Road in Chelmsford. As Melissa stated, we've been through some revisions in the last few weeks. As she stated, we went to Conservation Commission. We had a very positive meeting with them. They actually wrote conditions and asked that they continue until after the meeting, at least for this evening, to see if there were any more changes prior to going back to them. And really the only change to the plan itself was that from basically the end of the parking lot here, as the walkway wraps all the way around back to this parking lot here, that this portion of the walk be done in porous material. So what we're looking at doing is a crusher fines material, which is a walkway that's used for things like the brick walk in the center of town. It's a pervious walk. It's not a paved walk, and it's a little bit more environmentally sensitive while also being ADA accessible. So we've made that change to the plan. Besides that, we've looked at the buildings once again, and and looked at the lengths of the buildings, we were able to substantially increase the buffer between Building 1 and Littleton Road, which opened up a large amount of green space in this area here. By doing that, we took off basically a garage space and a parking lot space in that corner and moved them to this back line adjacent to the playground. We've also done some work in the corner here. Some of the information that we heard specifically from the Bicycle Pedestrian Committee at the last hearing was that it would be nice if the walkway didn't let out right at the intersection. We're making some substantial intersection improvements here to cut down on that kind of slow turn where nobody stops in this corner. But what they suggested was that it would be nice if the walkway could wrap all the way around that to the straight portion of High Street so that they weren't getting put out essentially right into the intersection. To do that, even though we're cutting the pavement back here, there's still a guardrail and a culvert right there. And to be as least impactful as possible, what we're looking at doing is a boardwalk in that section. So it would basically be decking over the brook in that section, which would allow you to step off then onto ground here and onto the straight section of High Street. So you'll be out of the intersection altogether. One of the comments from engineering was that that boardwalk remain in the developer's maintenance agreement, basically, that they would be responsible for it. So the town obviously doesn't want responsibility for that boardwalk, and it's actually mostly on private property, so there'd be an easement for the public to cross and over that with pedestrian traffic as they get onto High Street. Besides that, you can tell by this plan we've substantially increased landscaping. The plan that's before you has actually been updated again today, and we'll submit a new copy before the next meeting. But what we heard at the last meeting was please increase plantings along Littleton Road, and also from the abutters that they were concerned that when the leaves drop on High Street, where you can't see the project now, a lot of the vegetation in the back there is deciduous, so it would be barren essentially in the winter. So could you please put some evergreens in the rear? So you can tell we've substantially also planted the rear here. And this section here, which looks like grass, this actually has a pretty substantial landscape plan for an area that's going to be revegetated within the buffer zone that's in close proximity to the resource. So you can see that green space fills in with, I believe it's about 75 plants in that area. So even more substantially will that area be filled in the back. So we've done a nice job of putting in, these are street trees. The larger circles are shade trees, which would be a street tree that you would see to allow for shade during the summer months. And then the plants that are integrated in between these shade trees are all evergreens. So they're, I believe, white firs and also some upright junipers in that area. So that'll help screen the building during winter months, along with the berm and the topographical difference between both the street and the building. I believe that covers pretty much all of the changes. I've been working with Christina Papadopoulos, your town engineer. The letter that we had last time had a handful, I believe it was 3 or 4 comments that were remaining that we needed to take care of. A few of them were conditions. And not things that I could actually draw on the plan. So I believe what you have before you tonight is basically a cleaned up letter that goes through everything we talked about last time that we went into record with a couple of small updates. And then so that we didn't have to go through it again, Christina worked on a letter that kind of summarizes kind of what's left. So there's a shorter letter that you could read into the record tonight and ask her to discuss. But I believe all of the technical items are really taken care of, and they're left to about 3 or 4 different conditions of approval, mostly related to things like the pedestrian easement, the maintenance of the brook walk in this location, doing a few more test pits during construction, because we did a lot of test pits on the lot in the areas of the infiltration, but some of them don't fall exactly within the footprint, so we'd get those at the time of construction. That's not an unusual condition. And I'm not sure what. The boardwalk and the test pits. Okay. So obviously Christina's here tonight if you have any questions about our back and forth related to the technical aspects of the project. And like I said, the Conservation Commission has reviewed the project and pretty much set their conditions, one being that this part of the walk be pervious, and a couple conditions about what can be done kind of behind the buildings in close proximity to the resource as it relates to fertilizer. and also insecticides, and then the staking of one building that is in close proximity to the wetlands, but everything else seems to be all set for the next meeting. So tonight we have with us, I do have the architectural changes that are here in this package, which just shows how basically the footprints were changed so that more of the 3 bedrooms were kind of closer to that playground side than the one. So we made the building 1 3 heavy, because that's the building we anticipate more children to be in, with the 3 bedrooms being in closer proximity to the playground. So building 3 got not longer than the original plan, but a little bit longer than last time, and building 3 actually got shorter in length. So Jim Dzokis is here tonight, who's the project architect. Also, Mike Santos is here again if you have any remaining traffic questions. And then again, Chuck and Melissa are both here to answer any remaining questions that you might have. That's it.
Thank you. We have a shorter letter that Christina put together.
It's the July 26th letter, Brian. Brian, it's right there. It's right in front of you, Brian.
Oh, this one, okay. Thank you. I think I will read this into the record. July 26, 2017, Zoning Board of Appeals, Town Offices, 50 Billbrook Road, Chelmsford, Mass. Subject 50 Hunt Road, Beaverbrook Crossing, 40B development of 84 residential units. Dear members, the office has reviewed the submitted plans by Howard Stein Hudson Associates, consisting of 15 sheets dated April 27th, 2017, revised through July 21st, 2017, a stormwater management report dated April 2017, revised through July 2017, a response letter to the technical comments dated July 24th, 2017, and a letter summarizing some of the changes dated July 24th, 2017 for the above referenced site. This office prepared a letter on May 15th, 2017, stating the basic requirements of the Chelmsford DPW Engineering Division. After reviewing the revised plans, in addition to those comments, we request that the following extra comments be included in the conditions of approval. 1, the applicant has agreed to a sidewalk easement for a portion of the sidewalk that is on private property, but will be maintained by the town. The easement documents must be provided to the town and approved by this office. 2, the applicant has agreed to test the soil during construction to confirm the soil types in the areas of infiltration area. The testing shall be witnessed by the Chelmsford DPW Engineering Division. 3, the applicant has agreed to take full responsibility for the maintenance of a wooden boardwalk. The town will not be required to maintain the wooden boardwalk. The applicant has addressed all the technical review comments from this office, and the proposed drainage design has sufficiently met all the requirements outlined in the Massachusetts DEP Stormwater Handbook. If you have any questions, please contact this office at 978-250-5228. Sincerely, Christina Papadopoulos, Town Engineer, Town of Chelmsford. That summarizes most of what's in this document here, which will be a long read. Any questions from the board? Charlie?
I can see that you did a lot of work on the landscaping, which is really nice, because I was looking at the Today project and the month ago. So I applaud you for doing the landscaping. I can't talk you into taking off the 4th story, though, anyway, can I? I was told by Paul I couldn't either at the last meeting.
Well, I will tell you that we have examined that again, and we think that we've covered all aspects while keeping the 84 units at this development. I agree with you that there's many developments that I've had before your board that I think have been ripe for reduction, but I don't think this one is it. I think that we came in with a project that was actually suitable for 84 instead of coming in with a project showing 120, knowing that we would come down to 84, which is typical of a lot of developers that would come in here and do that, but we chose not to do that. I think over the time that this has been before you, not only have we changed the building design, lowered the height of the buildings, 2 of which are now in conformance with your bylaws, moved them away from the road. We've added substantial landscaping along Littleton Road and along High Street to satisfy the abutter concerns. And over and above that, we've agreed to offside mitigation of the sidewalk, even running to Hunton High. I think going above and beyond even putting a boardwalk in that area to suggest, to support any pedestrian concerns of coming from the bike rail trail, which not only supports the neighborhood that we've tried to keep part of this project, but also the entire town that uses that rail trail area. On top of that, from the get-go of this project, we agreed, even with the 84 units, to go down to 50% of the area median income for the affordable units, which is not something that a lot of developers are willing to do, to make these truly affordable to people in need. As I had mentioned, 80% AMI units that are considered affordable for rental in these projects aren't always truly affordable for people that need it. 80% AMI is actually almost equal with some market rents in this area. So to make them truly affordable, we agreed to go down to 50% of the AMI. And I think that we talked about this a lot at the last meeting. We also agreed to there was a public amenity needed that was identified by your town manager of a playground. It was noted that from police and fire that it was in a dangerous area and that we needed to do something to fix that. And not only have we fixed that, we agreed to build the playground, manage the playground, and keep it open to the public while allowing public parking within the development. So I think this project has actually addressed any health and safety concerns that possibly could have risen, not only from the project, but also has satisfied off-site mitigation that is a problem in this area right now. So that's my long way of saying that at this point, we're not willing to reduce our units from 84 any further, because I think we've actually satisfied all concerns of the board and tried to address many concerns of the abutters.
Thank you. That's how an attorney says no.
That's N-O. I mean, I honestly think that I could see that fourth story coming off, but I can't give you an honest reason why. I can't say that this is going to dramatically affect the project. I think there's enough room for it. I think smaller would be better, but I really can't give you a definitive reason why. I just don't know.
And so the 40B regulations state that you're not allowed to reduce the density of a project unless it's directly tied to an issue of local concern.
Which is what I'm really struggling
Exactly. So what I'm trying to say is that the regulations back you up in that statement, that unless you can point to a legitimate health, safety, or other sort of local concern that supports that reduction, you're not allowed to request that reduction. And I think that's what Charlie was referencing from what I told him last week.
Right. I do not have a reason other than it would be nice to make it smaller for a non-definitive reason, honestly. I know there's some abutters here tonight. I'm gonna ask if they'd like to speak regarding any of the project that's been presented tonight. If you just approach the podium, give us your name, address, and any concerns you have.
Good evening. I'm Lawrence McDonald, Reed Road. Just a quick question, and I apologize if this is a repeat. I know that we talked about the ratio of 1-bedroom versus 2-bedroom versus 3-bedroom might change, and I've kind of lost the thread of, among the 84 units, how many are 1, how many are 2, and how many are 3. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure. I think that we can find that out.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Katie's going to pull that off of the plan right now, but we have significantly increased the number of 1-bedrooms to address, which I think was the concern of the board, which was decrease the number of 3- and 2-bedrooms to decrease some of the impact of town services.
19 ones and 55 twos and 10 threes.
Right, so we've gone up to 19 1-bedroom unit, 55 2-bedroom units, and 10 threes. And again, the threes are created now because the Mass Housing and other project administrators require that at least 10% of all of these projects contain 3-bedroom units in order to create family housing within affordable housing developments.
Okay, so that's sort of a number that's not gonna change.
That's correct.
So all those 3 bedrooms are the affordable?
So I'm gonna ask you to just come to the podium with any questions you have. And please address the board, and we'll.
Yep. I am Jeff Jennifer Effield, I live on the corner of High and Hunt. I was just curious, how many of those 3 bedrooms, are they all the affordable? No,
They've got to be interspersed equally throughout the development.
okay,
So again, it's 25%, or in this case, it's going to be 20% affordable because they're doing it at 50% area median income.
okay.
So 20% of the ones, 20% of the twos, 20% of the threes should be.
What up?
And it won't necessarily be exact because sometimes the numbers
Okay.
don't allow you
All
to
right.
do it exact, but
Yeah, that's it.
in that ratio.
I mean, I had a concern with the intersection, but looks like there's gonna be a bridge put up there, so.
It'll be something like 3 bedrooms and 12 2-bedrooms, I think. And 4 1-bedrooms
Okay.
will be the affordables. Does that sound, I mean, I know that can,
That's the calculation.
That's it. I'd like to see a 3-story too, but it is what it is.
Hi, I'm Elaine McDonald. I live with that guy on Reed Road. I have 2 questions because and if I missed, it might have been, I came a little late. What is 50% AGI? Because I don't even know what those words mean.
It's AMI, it's area median income, so it's basically, the affordable units are priced based upon the area median income, which is a federal designation, and we're in the Boston metro AMI area. So the prices are set by a formula, the rental prices, so that's based upon someone.
What is it today? What's 50% of today for a 2-bedroom?
Well, it's
just curious.
I don't know off the top of my head what the rent would be. We could certainly ask the applicant to provide that information, but it's based upon someone who is earning no more than 50% of area median income, paying no more than 30% of their income towards housing.
And I'm not sure if it was said in the meeting that we had with the developer and his entourage, but wanted to make, is it in the official paperwork that the affordables will be sprinkled about?
So the location of the affordable units is actually something that's within the jurisdiction of the subsidizing agency. So they will have to give a affordable unit location plan as part of their final approval submittal to this is a mass housing, so to mass housing. And mass housing will, as part of their final approval process, approve that. This board can certainly include a condition that it be submitted to the board for its review to make sure that it doesn't have any significant concerns with, how they're interspersed, but ultimately it's the subsidizing agency that approves it.
So it's not Chelmsford Housing Authority, it's...
Nope, it's mass housing.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, I'm Kate Conran, 77 Hunt Road. I wanted to thank the developers. They did meet with a group of the abutters and people from the neighborhood back in June to provide some information. I'm wondering if I could get an understanding of the impact to the wetlands. I thought I heard something, I'm not a direct abutter, so I didn't get a notice, but I heard there was a notice given since that meeting in June that there was a change to the wetlands area, and I wanted to understand that better.
If I may, just quickly address that comment.
yes, please.
Okay, okay. Yes, so there was notification sent out for the notice of intent process, which is a process where we have to notify the abutters of the project within a certain amount of feet of the project. Anytime you do anything within 100 feet of the wetlands or within 200 feet of a brook or river that is perennial, the Conservation Commission and Mass DEP has jurisdiction and has to approve those areas. So we're not doing any work within a wetland or within the river, but we are within the buffer zones of those areas. So that would be why the neighbors were notified.
Can you speak briefly to you're in front of the commission and
Right, yes. So
timeline of that?
we appeared in front of the commission a few weeks ago as part of the notice of intent process, and we talked to them about our buffer zone impacts. Essentially the work that's being done within the area. We made sure that the project meets all the local bylaws and the state bylaws. So what we're looking at is we're making sure that we're meeting the 25-foot no disturb, the 30-foot no pavement, the 50-foot no structure. And then we're also meeting fully the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Standards. So all of the drainage in this project will go through deep sun-putted catch basins that are filtered or inserted with a silt prison, which is a best management practice, which takes out more of the suspended solids, et cetera, before it goes into some underground infiltration areas. So we're either meeting or exceeding those standards with this project. You're welcome.
Katie, when are you back in front of them?
August 8th.
And where is that within the, where are they within their process?
I feel, well, they set conditions at the last hearing, and they wanted to wait to vote until after this hearing.
Brian, you want to continue with the other board members?
Again, are there any questions at this point? I really think we've covered most of it. I don't know,
I've got two. Did the applicant have the numbers for the AMI that they asked for?
I'll tell you that rental and homeownership calculations are based on a lot of things going into a calculation that's set by the state. And a lot of them are dependent on, there's two things that go into it. One of them is the AMI, and the other is what you're going to use for a utility matrix. The utility matrix says if you're going to use gas or electric, and whether the landlord or the tenant is going to pay for it. So it's either the renter can only pay 30% of their income towards it. So if you make them then pay for gas, the rent goes lower. If you make them then pay for electricity for their oven, the rent goes lower because it can only be 30% of their income. Generally speaking, I think I'm not sure in Chelmsford, but in Westford, which is in the same area median income area, they do have some 50% units, which rent between $700 and $800 a month. And I know they pay all of
a single bedroom?
Single bedroom.
Yeah, the number changes based on the number of bedrooms.
That's
So
right.
One bedrooms will be rented at a lower price than the two bedrooms than the three bedrooms.
That's right.
But your submittal to Mass Housing for your eligibility letter should have presumed some form of income from the affordable unit, so you can probably, it won't be based on today.
That's right.
It'll be based upon, when they filed their application for an eligibility letter.
That's
but
right.
It should be able to get you at least a ballpark figure.
Yes, and I can give you a ballpark figure, but I'll tell you that's the calculation we go through. And then when we get an approved regulatory agreement attached right to the back will be the approved number that Mass Housing has set for that rental, given the matrix.
Okay, so what's your ballpark number?
I will actually pull it from our application, and I'll see if I can update it prior to the next meeting, just seeing if the matrix has been updated from the Chelmsford Housing Authority.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be metering, if I understand you correctly, these units. They'll be getting individual bills for their, is there gas? there?
Not necessarily, but I think there is gas, right? There is gas, yeah. Not necessarily. It's just based on what they think an average household of this size will use for gas in that area, and then they set a number for it based on the number of bedrooms.
So it's part of the calculation, but really not a,
Right, it's part of the matrix. That's part of the utility matrix that goes into the calculation for what somebody can afford if they are 50% of the area median income and then can only pay 30% of what they actually earn towards their rent.
so technically, renter A could have a different rent than renter B, depending on their income.
Right, but in no case in these units can the person be over 50% of the area median income. There's a ceiling.
Right, so,
Right.
and I think that's in the 70s or something, so
But
35 would be.
The units are gonna be priced based upon 30% at 50% area median income.
That's right.
So if someone's at 48% area median income, they're not going to get a more expensive unit than
Doesn't
someone who's
adjust.
at 43% of area median income.
Okay.
Right.
That's
Yes,
what I
the
thought.
affordable units will be the same.
They're all priced the same.
The only change is the number of bedrooms, like Mr. Pavardy had
Right,
pointed
that
out.
would have an effect, of course.
That's right.
Steve, do you have two questions, or does
Yeah,
that come back?
the other question was with all the new trees that are being planted for screening, do we have any kind of a gauge for how tall those trees will be in relationship to the height of the buildings? So will they actually accomplish the goal of screening all year round, or?
Yeah, I mean, it'll
Eventually.
certainly take, there's a sorry.
When they grow, I mean.
Yeah, there's a caliper on the drawing as far as what they're planted at, which is a minimum caliper, and then certainly they'll grow. I mean, there are specifications that you can look up that say how tall they can grow to, and I could provide you with some information for some of the evergreens at the next meeting.
Okay.
How big actually will the plantings be?
No, they'll be big. They'll be big. The firs, I mean, the firs are, it's a tree. It's not none of those are shrubs. They're trees.
No, I get
So
that. How big when they plant them?
when they plant them, I believe they're about
6
2.5.
feet. Yeah, they
Yeah.
can't be too big or they won't.
Yeah,
the
5 or
6
6 feet when they're planted, so it'll take a good while for them to get.
Nancy, do you have any questions? None? Charlie, any others?
I'm good, thank you.
Chairman, I did pull out the pro forma.
Oh, good.
This is from the application.
And I was pretty close. The monthly rent for the one-bedroom would be $778. The monthly rent for the two-bedroom would be $915. And the monthly rent for the three-bedroom would be $1,043.
And those are projections that will be recalculated at the time they execute the.
That's right.
Thank you.
And these are the subsidized ones, that's
correct.
obviously not the
Yes.
market rate.
Yeah, the market rate units right now, in our projections, we had priced at $1,600 for the one-bedroom, $2,150 for the two-bedroom, and $2,400 for the three bedrooms.
Okay, I guess. we
Brian,
should
if I may,
continue.
since we have some additional time tonight, I thought it may be beneficial for the applicant to describe the relationship with the housing authority, how that, have you have some sort of agreement as it pertains to this project?
No, we don't yet have an official agreement with the housing authority, but we've been in continued discussions with them. And Mr. Emanuel's had meetings with them about doing long-term monitoring for this project, and we'll continue to discuss that with them.
Okay, and then I think the architect is here tonight. I don't think we had a chance to spend a lot of time at the first or second meeting on architecture.
I agree.
Maybe
I
beneficial
agree.
for the board to hear some additional details on that.
That would be terrific.
I think we were all just roof lines and.
Yeah, we've
Material,
seen-
whatever, whatever you're interested in.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Jim Jazokis with Jazokis Architecture Incorporated. Basically, we began with a much higher roof, and we lowered that, staying within the zoning for two buildings, and we kept him, kind of streamlined the building. Let me just get to the better looking ones. What do we got here? Yeah, these are just, okay. Yeah. I might as well just, just so we can take a look at them. But we're looking at a stone veneer at the bottom portion of the building, about maybe 3.5 feet high, just to give it a good protection on the bottom. Vinyl siding and with a variety of colors, and asphalt roof, and like an AZAC or a PVC type trim. Here we go. So, keeping in style with the area.
Have you made any plans for the roof runoff to be reused on site, or is that just gonna go to the infiltration system?
Right now, yeah, I mean, there's no gutter systems. I prefer not to have maples growing out of corners of the roof system and having Chuck up on the ladder. But, yeah, typically we just prefer to just come right off the roof and go into the stormwater management systems from there. But if there is needs, that we will collect it and bring it into the stormwater management
Oh, I'm
system.
not even suggesting, I'm just trying to understand whether the building's being built, with energy. I see there's no solar, there's no.
Not at this time, no.
No energy conservation.
Can always be added. It
Management.
happens to a majority of projects that, after the fact. And it's so light, the roof systems are designed for, the now blizzard of 78 or 2011 storm.
Substantial load. They could handle solar.
And solar panels only 2 pounds per square foot, so that additional weight is very minimal. If there were a suggestion or something that we could definitely do in the future.
And will the building proper be Energy Star compliant?
Yes, oh yes. It's hard to avoid that.
Yeah, I just want to
Right.
understand it.
What was the material?
Right now, we're looking at a vinyl siding, PVC, or what people refer to as AZAC trim, with the belly bands being AZAC as well, and with a stone veneer on the bottom, and asphalt roof shingles.
Is a stone veneer in one of the gable ends there as well? Is that?
Yeah, to carry that up, to break it up a little more, so you can, when you approach the buildings, you know where the front door is, you know where the side entrances are.
So is there one main entrance for the front?
Typically, yes, yes, but there'll be another means of egress, like a side door from a opposite end of the hall that you can go down. But if you want to get your mail and everything and visit, all the units will have their monitoring systems where you have to buzz in. There'll be a colored monitor by code at every unit, so you'll see exactly who's trying to buzz in.
Oh, they can have monitors in the unit?
It's actually required by code now, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
With no gutters, is there protection from the sheeting water at the main entrance?
At the main entrance is definitely, it is a covered entryway, so. And the garages have a similar style to them as well, with small windows and asphalt roof and vinyl siding.
What's left on our list?
I just had, I'm looking at my notes from last meeting, the mail, we're gonna, okay,
Unless the postmaster tells us differently,
Yeah, then
that's
you'll need
typically
a-
what we're looking at. And
The,
and there's a main office, typically the tenants will be notified that they have a package
Right.
waiting for them.
the trash dumpster, that's confirmed with Nick Parley? Okay.
Yes, in our preliminary discussion, we said we showed them the dumpster location. Once we have it approved, we'll actually have to come back before them and use one of their approved agents and make sure that we have a company that's approved to take it out of there.
I think there was a question about times too, as far as when that was gonna be picked up, and has that been established yet, or?
No, but again, this is going to be a residential site, so we would not be having trash pickup at 5 a.m. or a start of equipment or anything at that time. And I'm not sure, Evan, off the top of my head, but I actually think the trash regulations do speak to that for dumpster trash removal in residential areas.
We have a noise bylaw. I don't know
Yeah.
if we have a specific trash hauling.
But in any case, it would not be early morning trash removal.
I think another question that came up last time from my notes was, the bus stop during construction. Did that get, just to make sure that that
Yes.
was accessible during all, during the entire time of the construction, and of course afterwards, I'm sure it will be.
Yes, it'll be operational and accessible.
There was a mention of one of the garages being moved. Where did that go?
That was removed.
Oh,
It was
okay,
taken off,
so it
yeah.
wasn't relocated, it was taken off the site.
It was eliminated, it was removed.
We took the two spaces, the garage space and the one in front of it, and shifted the two spaces somewhere else outside of the structure.
Okay.
I have nothing else in my notes. That being said,
Well, Brian, I don't think there's a lot of things to go, so.
If I may, I just want to make sure our traffic engineer is here tonight. I want to make sure that we feel comfortable with traffic before. He won't be available at the next meeting, so I just wanted to make sure that we were good. Or you had anything else you needed to ask
I
him
actually
tonight?
felt that was,
Good.
Covered pretty well, yeah.
practical. I thought the idea of having the perpendicular exits to across the way, the other development was the right call.
Offset,
Okay,
No entrance to Hunt Road was what the abutters seemed to feel strongly about, which I agree with.
great. I just
Ca-
wanted, yeah, I
can
just wanted
the,
to make sure
um,
there was anything
Can the
additional.
engineer speak to any provisions that you believe MassDOT may be interested in in requiring you to do? I mean, do you have any
I
idea?
mean, typically, yeah, as far as the curb cut permit, we'll have to prepare a curb cut permit application. So typically what they have us do, we'll show the stationing. We're showing, I believe, the proper curb radii. Usually they speak to that with vertical granite curbing. We'll have to do some traffic management during the process to show where we may, need signage before and after the curb cut into the site.
But you don't
during
expect them
construction if we need
to
but-
require any roadway modifications, geometric
No,
modifications?
certainly not, no.
Okay.
I think you mentioned last time that the fence around the playground was a 40-mile-an-hour crash-rated fencing?
The fence, right, it's interior of the guardrail, so there's the guardrail that wraps around the top of the hill, and then there's a crash-rated fence, correct, interior on two
And
sides.
what's that rated for? I mean, there's certainly be a difference between a Prius and a truck that can be on 110 during the day.
It's a security fence that's crash rated. That's usually more around facilities where somebody might be trying to get in. So, and it's more of a security fence than it is, I think, meant for the application that we're looking at it for.
And that
So
guardrail's gonna go all the way around?
the guardrail goes
front of
around
that
the
fence.
corner,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of, well, there's other things. There's trees and utility poles and equipment out at the road. The guardrail is the next step in from that, and then the crash rated fence is interior of that. So, and the crash rated fence, yeah, is interior. So there's basically
You have to
three
get through a
different, they gotta get
guardrail,
through, they gotta get through a lot. Hopefully, there's not still going 40 miles an hour, but yeah.
There's something very important
Exactly.
inside
And
that
that's why-
playground, and that's what
right.
I'm concerned about.
So that's why we brought it, and we brought those plans and specifications to both police and fire to get their approval, and I believe you read their letters in at the last meeting. So they went through all of those applications with us, and we're comfortable.
Just one final question on, will Mass Dot have any, do they have any jurisdiction on that playground scenario?
Conservation.
I don't see why they would, it's
None
outside
of
the
it's,
layout.
none of it's within their right of way and they.
No, none of it's,
Can't?
everything's
Okay.
on private property that we're
okay.
proposing.
Finish before them, you can finish after them.
Absolutely.
Since I don't think believe we have any outstanding issues, I'd like to close the public hearing and vote.
We had just, normally what we'll do is keep the hearing open.
Sure.
And have the board recommend that Paul create a decision.
Yep.
I think Paul seems to have pretty clear
Oh, draft the
indication,
decision
craft the
itself?
decision. I'll work with him offline on that. We'll use a boilerplate, and then we'll customize it for this purpose.
Okay.
But I think that keeping the hearing open will allow the board to continue to work with the applicant if there's a need during deliberations. Would you agree with that?
I agree. You're not anywhere near your deadline for getting the hearing closed. Once you do close the hearing, you have a 40-day period in which you have to file your decision. So by leaving it open, you're keeping your options open in terms of your timeline. Plus, it allows additional input on any items that may
come up.
So
And you've experienced before where the board has reviewed it could be a particular sentence, and you have a question about it, and we end up tweaking it a little bit, or clarifying it.
And it allows for input from the applicant throughout the drafting of the decision process without raising any concerns as to whether that's going beyond what's allowed on a closed
Yeah,
public
I
hearing.
don't think we wanna close it either until these guys read in, from this meeting. I mean, just.
That's
just to
another good
start.
point, is
Just to
if
start,
keeping it open
you know?
until next month, they're able to come in
Do
and
the
certify
Mullen
that they've, reviewed the record and
Right.
signed their Mullen statements and
point.
get those into the record.
That sound like a
Okay.
better idea?
Yeah, much better.
Would you like to continue, though?
Yes,
We
we
could
have
do
to
that.
continue.
Well, if there isn't other questions from the board or from the public, I think we'd accept a motion
Motion to continue.
continue. Are there any other questions from the audience this evening?
Nope.
Being said, I
Yep,
have
I'll
a
make a
motion
motion
to
to
continue the
continue to
public hearing.
I'll second
August
that.
21st.
Second by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
This is allow Mr. Richards and Jackie to review it.
And Bud?
Oh, and Buzz, right.
Yeah.
I didn't even miss him.
I won't tell him.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was really nothing there.
Do you want to make a motion to adjourn since we're,
Just want to remind them, your next regularly scheduled meeting
is next week?
Next Thursday, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But we'll be continuing this for the 24th of August.
Yeah, and on the 24th, we'll open Gorham Street.
So when did the application for Gorham Street come in?
Yesterday.
Stamped in yesterday.
All right, so, it's 24.
So you gonna be ready for Gorham Street on the 24th?
It's 29 days?
Yeah, we got
Well, 29 days is within the 30-day
Oh, is
period
it?
anyhow,
Okay,
but,
okay, I thought it was 21.
no, it's 30 days to open the public hearing.
With Safe Harbor, this has no effect.
Do you wanna,
Yep.
Yeah.
we wanna adjourn first? Or are you still looking to continue?
Yeah, I didn't know when, okay. I have a motion to adjourn.
Did you continue yet?
Yeah, they
Yes.
did.
Yeah, we did.
We did continue to the 24th, 7 PM.
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye.
Safe Harbor.